Oh, one thing I did do when I first got there was the ballot drive was going on to get Libertarian Party on the ballot in California. So we were out, like we had to register 80,000 people as libertarians, like in a 3-month period or 4-month period, in order to be on the ballot. And so we were out on, I went out every weekend on Hollywood Boulevard, at Venice Beach, all these places where a whole bunch of us were out there registering a lot of people as libertarians.
Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you. Welcome to the Party Pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 389. I'm talking to Ted Brown, who has been involved with the Libertarian Party for a long time. He's running for Senate in 2026 from the state of Texas. He's run for Senate before, and we'll probably talk about some other things he's run for in the past. So how are you, Ted?
Well, Chris, very well. Thanks for having me on. And I expect to enjoy talking about the politics of all this.
Okay, yeah. Ted, one thing I'd like to start out with, how did you become a libertarian?
Oh my gosh, it goes back a long, long way. I've been a libertarian my whole adult life. I joined when I was an 18-year-old college student, and I'm 65 now. So I spent my whole life as a Libertarian Party member and activist. Basically, I thought when I was a teenager that I was a liberal Democrat, and everybody in my family is a Democrat. But then I was reading Progressive Magazine, and there was an article about the Libertarian Party, and it was not very flattering, but it was completely accurate. And I said, wait, this more sounds like what I believe in. And so I sent away for information. Back then, it was way before the internet and everything else. So I mailed a request to the office, and they mailed me the position papers and the platform. I said, wow, this is great. I agree with almost all of this. So I sent in my $5 student membership and started a student group at the college, and the rest is history after that. I've done just about everything in the party, different leadership positions, being a candidate, because it became very important to me to promote liberty however I could, because it's there's so little of it out there in the political world that there needs to be the alternative, and I wanted to help do that.
When was that, and what college was it?
Oh, this was back in 1979, and at the time I was going to Wesleyan University in Connecticut. I only went there for 1 year, and then I left and moved to California. So I didn't really care much for that. Once I joined up and started the student group, I put out like an announcement, and there was one other guy that was interested in it, and he and I started the student group. And interestingly, back then it was kind of easy to get started. The National LP had a speakers bureau, and there was a Professor Dominic Armentano was willing to speak there. He was a professor at another college, and you might have heard of him. He wrote a book called The Myth of Antitrust and Antitrust and Monopoly. So he actually was willing to come over, and he spoke to this luncheon event that I arranged, and a lot of people came, and it was a very successful event. So I would guess he would be the first libertarian speaker I ever heard. And then they had the anti-draft registration rallies, like May Day of '79. And so we had like a table out there and all, but I decided I didn't like it there. I dropped out of Wesleyan, and my best friend from high school dropped out from his college, and we both just moved out to Los Angeles to find our fortunes after that. And out there was like plenty of libertarians. That was a very large, the largest libertarian group was out there. And it was when Ed Clark's presidential campaign was coming up. A lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. The party was pretty new, and this was, I was hooked, and I've been active ever since then.
Yeah. I didn't know about maybe he's got a few books. The book I remember reading by Armentano was Antitrust: The Case for Repeal. Maybe they've retitled it, but it's actually a pretty quick read. You can, it does give you a good case against antitrust. I didn't realize they had a speakers bureau, and it sounds like they were actively encouraging student clubs. Is that fair to say, Ted?
Right. There was a group it was Students for a Libertarian Society was a group.
Okay.
There was back then. In fact, I even have all that time since then, always in my home or my office. And right now I have this Resist the Draft poster up with burning the draft card, Students for a Libertarian Society, because of anti-draft protests, because that's one of the most fundamental libertarian issues. and that was one of the first ones I ever worked on, was the when Carter reimposed draft registration back in '79.
Yes, Jimmy Carter. And Ted, I do like to ask this too. You're a little later, and other people will ask this question, but what did you pay for college back then?
Well, I don't remember. I don't remember Wesleyan because that was like a private college, and my parents were kind of taking care of that. But later on, a few years later, when I went to UCLA and was a resident of California, it was $1,200 a year to go to UCLA, and they even charged the same for the law school and the medical school back then, $1,200 a year. And so it certainly has, inflation has been way more. If you just kept pace with inflation, it would still be affordable.
Yeah, and that was back when LA was considered cool. It's changed a lot since then, but yes.
It did change over the years, and I left. I mean, I left 8 years ago because of you know trying to find a better standard of living here in low tax Texas. So I've certainly loved it here since I moved from Pasadena, California to Austin, Texas. Which, interestingly enough, the cities are quite similar to each other, except Austin is like 8 times larger.
Well, you probably get a lot of different kind of there's probably 100 towns around there, isn't there, that besides LA?
Oh yes, LA County has like 89 cities in it. It's not like you're in Travis County where there's a very small number of cities.
Yeah, I mean municipalities with a mayor and everything. It's just, and they're all next to each other. It's just
Just
one.
run right into one from one
Yeah,
right into the other.
the term for that is megalopolis. Yes,
Exactly.
it's like, Ted, I do want to ask you. Reagan won California pretty easily. What do you think changed California politics? And you obviously saw this happen.
Well, it was demographics partially. It used to be a more white Anglo-Saxon electorate, and then it got more Hispanic and more Asian as the time went on. A lot of immigrants came in. A lot of people who weren't citizens, their kids were born as citizens, and they became voters. And the Republicans really screwed themselves over there in California. In I think it was 1994. Governor Pete Wilson, who was a Republican, was backing a proposition to there was like an anti-immigrant kind of proposition, and that just the Republicans just.
I thought that was welfare for immigrants.
It was. I actually forget what it is now, but it was something where it would have been against equal protection of the laws. It was like. Well, it's something that it was more of like one of those, what do they call it now? It's like, a wedge issue is what it is. They wanted to say, oh, we Republicans are, for the old ways and, the way America used to be and all this. And that worked for a while, but they just kept losing support, and they lost the demographic war. And the last Republican to win statewide office there was Arnold Schwarzenegger for governor in 2006. That was the last time. And he was he was a Republican. He was probably the biggest adult in the room in California government. But he was not really what you would consider the standard, like conservative Republican or anything.
I'm trying to look up that proposition. You said that was 1994.
For some reason, Prop 187 comes into my mind, but I'm not 100% sure. It might have had to do with education or something. I'm not sure now, but it's been so long. I just remember that it really put the made the Republicans very unpopular there, and they just kept getting fewer and fewer votes. And I believe Bush carried the state first time, I think, but then the second time I think Clinton won it, and then after that it's been Democrat ever since, like 92, I think.
Proposition 187 was a 1994 initiative to establish state-run citizenship screening system and prohibit undocumented immigrants from using non-emergency health care, public education, and other services in the state of California.
Yeah, it was a problematic one. I mean, obviously, like libertarians would be, against those services paid for by taxpayers for anyone. But there are laws in this country about equal protection of the laws. If you are saying anybody who's sick can go into an emergency room, for example, you can't just let some contagious person from another country be turned away. It's that kind of thing. You either have it for everyone or for nobody. it would seem.
Well,
So
this was what, and this was why it was shot down in court, unfortunately. But yes, it would have.
yeah, so but that just showed that the Republicans were not trying to appeal to the Hispanic community. And what's funny is they don't seem to try to appeal to the Hispanic community in any states. And it's funny that just recently here in Texas, like just last year, is when there was some kind of a turn where a lot of Hispanic voters, say here in Texas, sort of turned towards Donald Trump, and it was pretty amazing. And they it's sort of like the leopard eating their face party, you might say, because they voted for Trump, and now all they and their relatives are being abused by the Trump administration, and they're turning back away very quickly. All the polls are showing that the Hispanic voters that turned towards the Republicans last year are definitely turning back away from the Republicans this year and coming into the midterm elections.
Well, people who work generally don't, generally don't want to pay for other people who don't work,
True.
regardless of what their ethnicity or whatever is.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
So you certainly saw things change in California. What offices have you run for? When did you start running for office?
Oh my gosh. I started running the first time in California just right after I got there in 1980. I was 20 years old and I ran for the California State Assembly. And I thought it was fun. I actually had a flyer and walked door to door and not put the flyer out and everything. And no, it was a lot of fun. And I was running on the ticket with Ed Clark, who was from California, running for president, and everybody was enthusiastic about that. Oh, one thing I did do when I first got there was the ballot drive was going on to get Libertarian Party on the ballot in California. So we were out, like we had to register 80,000 people as Libertarians, like in a 3-month period or 4-month period. In order to be on the ballot. And so we were out on, I went out every weekend on Hollywood Boulevard, at Venice Beach, all these places where a whole bunch of us were out there registering a lot of people as Libertarians. Though the paid group of bikini-clad girls at the beach down in Orange County seemed to do the best. They registered like thousands of people down there as Libertarians. But it worked on New Year's Eve, 79 to 80 there. We learned that we had gotten enough people and we were going to be on the ballot. And 100 Libertarians filed for office, including me. And it was a really big year. That was like a great year for Libertarians. We were new, fresh, lots of money from David Koch, who was the vice presidential candidate. And that enthused Libertarians all over the country. It was 50 state ballot access. And after that, there was a big lull for many years in activity. But I became active and stayed active. Became a local chair and later state chair just a few years later in California, back in '88, and but ran for state assembly, Congress. The biggie was the insurance commissioner. It was a new office in 1990, a statewide office. And I was the only one who was running who had an insurance occupation, because there you put the occupation on the ballot, like your name, party, and occupation. So I got actually 441,000 votes, 6% statewide for that office, and was a ballot access race. So there was a lot of attention for that. So that was a fun one with a lot of attention. But since in this century, 21st century, starting in 2000, I've run primarily for Congress, and now here in Texas, I've run for Congress and U.S. Senate.
Yeah. So so you ran for state assembly and the insurance commissioner, and you've actually been that's been your career. You've been in the insurance business, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was after I went back to college and graduated from UCLA. I got a job in the insurance with an insurance company, and I've been in the claims department for 40 years until I just retired recently as a claims adjuster and investigator. And for most of my career, though, I've been an independent adjuster where I've been more self-employed and had my own clients, like overflow work for insurance companies. So it's been fun, but now it's time to take it easy from that and even concentrate more on politics, because as things has gotten worse, I'm sure not going to let my activism decline, because can't let it go now. When the government's getting bigger and bigger and more awful every day.
So when you talk about working, is you probably go when there's a flood or a hurricane or an earthquake, and they need more insurance. Is that what you do?
No, those are like emergency or catastrophe adjusters. No, I mostly did daily claims like car accidents, a lot of trucking accidents, slip and falls, dog bites, and then also property claims, like say if your pipe breaks at your house and the house is flooded, make sure that the blowers get in there and the repair estimates written up, that sort of thing. So just about any kind of claim that could be like an insurance company would get for property and liability claims. So probably handle thousands and thousands of claims over the years.
Yeah, I'm naturally curious. What are some ridiculous regulations on the insurance industry, in your opinion?
Well, one of the problems is when the government tries to regulate the rates, because then you're violating the free market, and you're not going to get the right kind of coverage to the right kind of people at the right time when the market is distorted like that. That's one of the main problems. But California had a lot of regulations about how quickly you had to respond to people, which is actually a good thing. Insurance companies need to be responsive to people who have claims. So overall, I don't know if the insurance regulations were that big of a deal. I thought that it's probably important to make sure that I was maybe more so than you probably consider a lot of people who are in insurance claims or something to be these nasty SOBs that don't want to pay your claim. Me, since I didn't work directly for the insurance company most of the time and was an independent contractor, I wasn't part of the insurance company, and I was actually trying to help people with their claims and to get more if they could, if they deserved it. But if they didn't, if they were trying to cheat the insurance company or be fraudulent, I was certainly going to point that out. And I certainly uncovered quite a bit of that over the years with people making injury claims that were fake, that sort of thing.
I've never noticed that during all my years with State Farm. At least now I have kind of noticed it. For example, if the other guy was at fault and they damaged my car,
Mm-hmm.
but at least one thing I've noticed is that seems like they're very quick to they're very quick to total cars anymore.
That's actually a newer development.
Yeah,
and I think it's because the
cars sometimes the damage really isn't that severe.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's because there's so many computerized systems that once they start fixing it, they keep finding more and more as they tear it down and they start putting the parts on. They find more wrong all the time, and so they figure it's just better to cut their losses at first, sell what's left for salvage, and they get a pretty good salvage value at like car auctions. If the car is fairly, in good shape, they almost break even on that sort of thing because of the salvage recovery on some of those. Yeah, I've noticed that too. And that's the case, like on cases where I'm handling our own policyholders' cars, they definitely want to total those out more quickly. If it's the other guy's car, we tried, that's not necessarily going to be the case. But for their own policyholder, yeah, they want to definitely don't want to keep hearing about that car and keep paying more and more and more. And it might end up being totaled when they've started to pay for it. So yeah, it makes some sense these days. Yeah.
And this is one of those things where how insurance operates.
Mm-hmm.
I at least every time I've went to State Farm, I've always went into an adjuster and they look at the car and say this, and then they hand me a check, and it's my job to go out and find somebody. So I'm still paying for it. So so I still have the incentive, to get a good price, but also to make sure I get good work.
Sure.
And it seems like they're drifting away from that insurance, and that's inevitably going to make everything more expensive.
Right. Well, all the insurance companies, including State Farm, and I'm actually insured with them right now myself, they have what's called direct repair shops. So shops that they have agreements with, that they work with for repairs. They'll send you there if you ask. Do you have any shops that you recommend? Yeah. And they do recommend some shops. And that, but by under the law, yeah, you're allowed to get it fixed wherever you want.
It might just take thank goodness for that, because I think it'll drive the cost through the roof otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Although you never know, sometimes you can have people who don't do a good repair job.
Right, but always like on the cases I had where we would never make a recommendation because the theory was that if you make the wrong recommendation and the shop does the job wrong, they're going to complain to the insurance adjuster, you know. So you say it was always find your own shop, take the money, find your own shop.
Yeah, and it's yeah,
Mm.
but of course sometimes it doesn't always work that. It doesn't work that way when you're on the other end, unfortunately. But I haven't. But it's a very interesting business. It's certainly. Well, anyway, Ted, what are some of your key positions going into this race for the Senate here? And you're running against John Cornyn,
Right.
in Texas. So what are some of your key issues here?
Right. It was pretty obvious last year when I ran against Ted Cruz who the candidates were going to be. But this time, we don't even know. We don't know who the Democrat and Republican are going to be this time. John
Well,
Cornyn is the
Cornyn is
incumbent.
retiring.
What's that?
Did you say Cornyn is retiring?
No, I say Cornyn has a primary challengers. He's got Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt running against him in the primary, and they're all spending a lot of money. Democrats, they've got Colin Allred, who ran last year, has a lot of money, but James Tallarico, one of our local, I think he's both of our state representatives, probably, if you're in that district, and so am I. He's leaving office to run for Senate, and he's a very young, charismatic candidate. So we'll see who the candidates are. It really depends on which ones are the candidates as to some of the things I'll do in the campaign. But there are general themes always for the Libertarian candidate, and that is that I'm going to be promoting personal freedom, economic freedom, and a non-interventionist foreign policy. And now, with the Trump administration being so in violation of respect for the rule of law, respect for the separation of powers of government, I've got to pick up more issues about that. How Congress has totally dropped the ball. They're letting the president do whatever he wants, pretty much. And we can't have someone just ruling by decree like Trump's been doing with all these executive orders. And yes, other presidents, all the presidents do that. Biden had a lot of them at the end also. But we can't have someone ruling by decree. We fought a revolution about that in 1776.
Yes.
And I don't think people want one guy making the decisions, but yet Republicans won't rein in their own guy, Trump, because everybody's afraid of him, and probably he is more popular than they are in their own districts. And the Democrats they'll send a strongly worded letter, I guess, but they aren't really able to do much of anything, it seems. So Trump's getting away with a lot more than he should. So it's really up to the courts. And they really need to be. The Supreme Court it's gonna boil down to the Supreme Court, and they've been ruling in Trump's favor, but I just don't know how they can do that on every time. I mean, even though a lot of them are his guys, it's just so beyond what it says in the Constitution. It's crazy that they would keep going along with this. So in the campaign, I'm going to keep bringing this up, how we need to respect the rule of law, the separation of powers, and also personal liberties. The Trump administration doesn't care one whit about people's lives. Trump's an ignorant authoritarian bully as far as I'm concerned, and he just cares about himself. And he's just let some of his people loose on America, like Tom Homan, the immigration czar, or border czar, whatever they call him, Kristi Noem, the health or Homeland Security Secretary, and some of these people are and Stephen Miller, his advisor, a policy advisor, is just like probably one of the worst Americans there is. I've never seen anybody like it with some of the things he comes up with. There's just no empathy or concern for people's lives or what they're going through or what they're experiencing. And people are being abused, and not just, certainly immigrants are being abused, but there are people that are being accused of being immigrants that are being abused also. It's like if you have like a Hispanic look about you or a foreign look about you, they're just going after you in total violation of the Bill of Rights, and there needs to be probable cause to detain or arrest somebody, and they sure don't have it in most cases unless they're being racist, and that's what it seems they are. And so it's been a big issue for me about immigration before, even last year and currently even more so. About I'm very pro-immigrant. I admit that. The libertarian position has always been that we welcome people to this country as long as they're being peaceful, not want to work to improve their lives and those of their families. And of course, libertarians don't favor providing any taxpayer funded benefits to them or anybody else, but certainly not to the immigrants, to differentiate us from the Democrats. But it seems like there's a large Republican element, and even some libertarians, unfortunately, that say, well, they didn't do this right. They didn't uh, come in here the legal, correct way, even though a lot of these folks don't really want them to come in legally either. They just want everybody to be a white
Yeah.
American, like from 1872 or something, and so it's very frustrating where those of us that believe in a much more liberalized immigration system, because now it's almost impossible to come here legally. It should be an Ellis Island style system where anybody that wants to should be able to come, but they should be checked out, signed in, made sure they're not criminals, have a contagious disease. Terrorists, that we should make sure they don't have like a suitcase with a nuclear bomb in it or something. But otherwise, most everybody else, let's be like 99% of the people would not have any of that going on, and they would be able to just sign in and start their lives as Americans.
Yeah. So Corn has been in since 2002,
Mm-hmm.
which is and of course he replaced Phil Graham. What do you think are the what do you think are what have you learned? What did you learn, during your last Senate run that you'll do differently? What do you think you'll do differently now than you did in your last Senate run?
Well, I think I was
Which
doing
was
pretty
with Ted Cruz.
well. The tough part is about being able to get the word out, because, as you know, being a libertarian candidate means that you're practically hiding in plain sight. The media just will not cover alternative party candidates. I even had hired a political consultant who had worked with Democrats to be my campaign consultant, and he said, "Oh, I'll call these various talk shows and get you on and all that." And when he told them who he was working for, no one would even call him back, and they even knew the guy. And so, and newspapers wouldn't cover the campaign. The only place I can get out there would be like here with podcast and with social media. And if we did buy some ads like on YouTube YouTube videos in one area just for an experiment. So more money would help do more of that. And but we just have to pay for whatever pretty much media we're going to get, and it's hard to raise money as a libertarian because we're not offering any special prizes to anybody, any goodies to people, because we want to cut off all their government largesse and not offer like subsidies and things like that out of the Treasury. So it's very hard to get support, and the public also doesn't even want to hear alternatives. They say they want a third party, but then they all break as part of these tribes. You're in the red tribe or the blue tribe, and it's getting worse and worse all the time. It's like their whole lives are lived as everything that the Republicans believe and everything that the Democrats believe, based on what their favorite media personality is telling them or whatever. And it's really hard to break through that if you're the third wheel, shall we say.
I have noticed that sometimes the student newspapers are better than anybody. Have you looked at any of them or not?
That's a good idea. That's a good
The
idea.
Daily Texan at UT or whatever.
I'll give that a try.
If they do that much anymore, but
I'll give that a try. But one thing I've been reading about some colleges, I don't know if any of them are in Texas, but various there probably is in Texas, because they're trying to like control what the students are putting out. They want a total the dialogue to be just whatever the right winger nut jobs that are running the state government want, and they don't want students to have any alternative opinions. And the whole point of journalism is to cover what the news actually is, whether you agree with it or not. And certainly it's a good thing to have opinions, but, and then have people have the alternative opinion, like pro and con, or, this is our community forum. Everybody can put their views out in like a newspaper column or something like that. But the authorities they want less and less of that. They just want more top-down control at our universities, coming from like Governor Abbott wants to control UT. And obviously, just like how Trump wants to control some of the other universities.
Well, they are state government. I mean, I don't know, what we could get a plan to privatize these schools, but that would be what I would favor. What are is there any are there any people in the current Texas state government that you think are doing a good job, whether it be somebody in the legislature or a judge or anybody in the executive?
That's tough to say. Well, the executive, no. I mean, it was funny when Greg Abbott, when I first moved here 8 years ago, he had always been coming to California and like trying to steal businesses away from California because I'm talking about how free market and pro-business Texas is. And he's still doing that. And I think that's a good thing. And it probably is better to do business in Texas than it is in California. But he's gotten way off of that. He's like gone off the reservation and become a crazed culture warrior and Trump toady, and it's not very becoming of him. He's more of an economic conservative and not someone who seems to go off on tangents. And he's just forcing himself to, I think, to gain favor from Trump and try to avoid like a primary challenge or anything like that. And it's terrible. And then Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, just awful, just a complete foe of liberty, culture warrior, and Ken Paxton, who might be my opponent, but as the attorney general, he just sues anybody he can to get a press release out and get it in the newspaper. Sometimes he gets it right, where he's trying to stop somebody from having big government in their city or something. But usually it's just like sort of just to get a headline. It doesn't make any sense for the state of Texas to have any kind of position on some of these things or not. So overall, the statewide officials are just terrible. There's a few state legislators here and there that are pretty good. Some of the Democrats on some civil liberties issues, and a few Republicans on economic issues. And so, not everybody's bad. But overall, most of the politicians, like say in the legislature or in Congress, are beholden to the special interest groups and corrupt party leaders. They listen to whatever their leaders tell them to do, mostly, not always, but mostly. And I'm certainly not going there to have anybody tell me what to do besides the people of Texas. And that's why we need to elect more libertarians and more independent-minded people who are not beholden to special interests or to party leaders. And we're going to just get out there and defend the Constitution, and fight for individual rights and freedom, and for the people that we're representing, not the special interests.
Yeah, why do you think they are running against Cornyn? It seems like what do you think's motivated that? It's
well, a couple of things. He's kind of old. Not as old as some of the other senators up there. He's only like 74, I think, something like 73, 74, something like that. So he's probably good for one more term before he keels over, probably, even though you have to carry guys out of the Senate. Senator Grassley's 92, for example. But the point is, the attorney generalship, which Cornyn was before he was elected senator and Abbott was before he was elected governor, is a springboard to higher office. And Paxton just doesn't want to wait. He wants his higher office, and he thinks he's got all the support from rank and file Republicans. So, and then Wesley Hunt is a young congressman who's very ambitious, and he thinks he can just steal it away from both of them. So basically, the incumbency doesn't really mean anything. They say that Cornyn is not pro-Trump, but now Cornyn's trying to be more pro-Trump, saying I vote for Trump 99% of the time. Well, I don't think that's a good thing at all. But it probably is for the crazed, fanatical Republican primary voters, because that's who's going to be selecting it. And it's getting worse and worse. I mean, the primary is so early, like on March 5th, that most of us Texans are not even considering politics yet for 2026. So it's only the most fanatical right-wing Republicans are voting in the primary, and the most fanatical left-wing Democrats are voting in the primary. And so, the party activist types, and they're the ones that select the most crazed candidates on each side, and that's who the voters are faced in November. And that's why there's a need for an alternative, and that's I'll probably be the only alternative, though the Greens theoretically could nominate somebody.
Certainly. What kind of groups are you reaching out to? Are you reaching out to, say, marijuana legalization people, or gun rights people, or people who want to legalize prostitution? Where are you focusing your attention?
Well, not too many. Marijuana is definitely one, because that's our issue. I mean, there's no party that can even remotely come close to being a defender of ending cannabis prohibition than the Libertarian Party. I mean, from the beginning of the party in the early 70s, we're the only ones been there, like in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 00s, in the teens, in the 20s. It's only us. Even during the Nancy Reagan, just say no. People thought we were nuts. We were the only ones that were in favor of ending cannabis prohibition, and it was libertarians who were partially behind the California medical marijuana initiative in 1996 that set the ball rolling. And that's what started the public realizing that marijuana has medicinal properties. And it led to now a majority of the public believes in, certainly 90%, I think, believes in medical marijuana, and like 60% believe in recreational, even in the most conservative Republican states, including Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, these places. Even Republicans have come around on that because they realize how ridiculous it is to make a plant illegal and to lock somebody up for that. So that's pretty much a big issue for us, and I certainly focused on that during the campaign. Now, I didn't even think it was going to come up again, but here right now, the Senate just put into that omnibus continuing resolution bill that they're considering to ban hemp products. The same thing that Dan Patrick wanted here in Texas, but for the whole country. And that's going to be in that bill. So there's this reefer madness group that seems to be in the Republican Party, and we certainly have to show how much we oppose that. That people should be able to, adults should be able to put any substance in their bodies that they want. It's not up to the government to make that decision for them. As for guns, I don't think here in Texas, I mean, obviously libertarians and myself, we're all very pro-gun rights, but the Republicans are pretty much not too bad on that, not too bad. And so it's kind of hard to like take that one away from them, though obviously sometimes they're going to compromise, and libertarians don't compromise on gun rights. But that's a tougher one because they have the Texas Republicans are really pro-gun, it seems, or considered very pro-gun.
Well, certainly. Who are some memorable people? Who are some people that really inspired you at any time? That were in office. Or people that you kind of liked, or people that maybe you just heard them speak and you said, "Wow, I really like this guy." It doesn't necessarily have to be a libertarian, but
Well, no, I heard about Ron Paul, of course. I heard about him early on. I heard of him first, like when I first was interested in when I first became a libertarian, and I was seeing if there were any senators or representatives who had any kind of libertarian views. I was doing my own research on that because there's no internet back then to do research from, and I found that the House member that I agreed with the most was Ron Paul, when he was a new congressman, pretty much like back in 79, 80, back there. And I followed his career, and I was a big supporter of his when he was the Libertarian presidential candidate back in 1988. Yeah. And I still like Ron. I don't listen to him all the time now anymore. In other words, I liked Ron Paul before it was cool, before he ran in 2008 and 2012 and inspired a whole bunch of people who first learned about what the Federal Reserve does, for example, because he's the only one really that can explain that anybody can understand it, as far as I'm concerned. I've heard other people try to explain it, but only Ron can really explain why you should certainly first audit the Fed and then end the Fed. I mean, and then so he's the primary one. Usually, I just haven't cared much for very many politicians. There are a lot of interesting politicians that I like. In fact, I just read a biography of Charles Sumner, who was an anti-slavery senator before and during the Civil War. So he was certainly inspiring about trying to remove people from bondage. I mean, you can't get much more important than that. And so here and there throughout history, there have been like some congressmen and senators that really believe in freedom, but there's so few of them. Just like right now, Senator Rand Paul is like about the only senator that cares about freedom in the Senate, and it's a really low bar. It's just terrible trying to find anybody that cares about freedom. So it's
yeah,
like
certainly.
the same in the House, just Thomas Massey, pretty much.
What are some books that you would say, or people, not necessarily politicians, but other people who have influenced you? I mean, was there Henry Hazlitt or Ayn Rand or?
Oh, well, I was going to mention also, it actually goes back far, a lot of writings by William Lloyd Garrison, the
Yes.
abolitionist back in the mid 19th century, who actually was really radical. People thought he was nuts. They tried to kill him and everything, but he won out. Slavery was abolished. He's kind of an inspiration. He has one saying that he gave in a speech that it's sort of one of the slogans that I use, which is the biggest belief of his life is liberty for each, for all, and forever is what he believed in, and so do I. I mean, that's very, very important, and he was extremely principled, and I really admire that. As for writers, certainly, I read with Ayn Rand. I read Atlas Shrugged when I was only 13, actually, by accident. It's kind of a funny story about how that came to be, and I liked her writings. I really enjoyed Atlas Shrugged and We the Living, the individualist ethic in those books. Fountainhead, not quite as much because I thought the main character was kind of mentally ill, but when I read it, even when I was a teenager. But yeah, Atlas Shrugged and We the Living were great influences. And then when I learned about the Libertarian Party, I read up on some of the intellectual influences on that. So I read Murray Rothbard's For a New Liberty and Libertarianism by John Hospers, and which was cool to meet both of them later on. It was so real easy to meet people at libertarian meetings and conventions and everything. So those were some of the early influence. And, I continually read liberty themed history, literally themed, libertarian themed, like writings now on different issues, books about different subject matters. So to keep myself, apprised about what's going on in all these areas.
Yes, certainly. As I like to say, I'm probably the last of the libertarians who got most of his education from or got almost all of his education from book catalogs. Uh, I know. When I first contacted the LP, they actually sent me a packet, and one of them included one page that was just a list of books. Hey, you should read these books.
Good idea.
Was there? Well, what I would do now is I would probably, if I was the LP, I would publish reviews on the have any member submit a review for a book, like, hey, I really like this book. This is why you should read it, and then do a link to Amazon. And I think the party would then get a little bit of a commission for that linkage.
No, it wouldn't be a bad idea because there's just so many.
I mean,
And
it's probably not going to raise a lot of money, but it gives your members. I mean, any member can just submit a review and put the review on. And
True. Well,
yeah,
there's more and more all the time. Like as I've been, it was like it was a really small outfit when I joined up. There was like a real much smaller number of libertarians, but then there became more think tanks, more
yeah,
academics, more people who it just sort of like steamrolled. There's like the Cato Institute, the Reason Foundation, a lot of other libertarian themed think tanks putting out a lot of data and research about all these subjects. So it's not just we're just talking out of our hat, about freedom. We actually have documentation and all these articles, books, magazines, and all to show that freedom works, and it has worked in the past and can work again in the future, and what the alternatives are to the way things are now. So I think people now don't seem to care as much about proof. They just want to hear a soundbite or something. But the data's out there, and anything that we're advocating, we have a pretty much good documentation for that the free market works way better than the command and control economy. And pretty much every aspect of our lives, that the default position should be freedom. It doesn't work 100% of the time. I mean, the perfection is not an option in this world, but it's where the default position should be to start with. That you're going to assume that we're going to have we're going to have freedom. There has to be a pretty darn good reason not to, rather than the way the government does it, where they're going to regulate the hell out of you. You have to like beg and plead and tell them why they shouldn't be doing that. So things are just totally turned around the way they should be in that regard.
yeah. What did you think learn from serving in some of these various offices? Because you were California State Chair, you did some of the things, and what was that like?
Well, I'm not one that really likes being like the overall chair. I have certain like things that I like to do. There's certain parts of my activism that I'm most interested in, and recruiting candidates has always been the main point of activism that I've had for more than 35 years plus of recruiting libertarian candidates, first in California and now in Texas. Because my view is that the public doesn't really pay much attention to politics, and they finally do, sort of, on election year in the fall, when the election's coming up. And so if you don't have a libertarian candidate there to challenge the other candidates, they won't even know that we're there or that we exist. So that's why I've always thought that we should have the most libertarian candidates possible, even if it's just a name on the ballot, because people say, who's that? Or what's that party? Or, why is there a third candidate that I never heard anything about? But or people might actually contact us for more information, or some of our candidates do run active campaigns, so they're going to hear something from the candidate, get a flyer or see an ad or whatever the case may be. So we have to have candidates because we're a political party. We have to have candidates, and I'm always willing to put, I'm not going to ask somebody to do something I'm not willing to do. So I've always been willing to be a candidate wherever I'm needed to fill a slot or to promote liberty. Wherever and whenever I can. So that's what I enjoy doing and what I believe is very important. Other aspects I'm pretty good at, used to. I don't do this anymore, but trying to get members for the party, because the more members you have, the more contributions come in and the more potential candidates you have also. But chairing the party, there's too many responsibilities. I would never want to be chair of the Libertarian Party of Texas, for example, which is a massive organization, it seems, with all kinds of departments and rules and regulations, which has really shocked me because they don't have that in California. It's just like sort of everybody just wings it, which is probably not a good thing. But there's a lot to do to run a political party. And Texas, for example, has an executive director, which is an important thing to have to run the day-to-day operations. But I like just doing, my niche of activism. One thing I am good at, though, I am good at chairing meetings. I chaired 4 California state conventions. I'm real good at doing that and being like the MC of events, and even like family events. I've done like MC'd family events and all, because I'm real good at keeping things going and making sure that things don't go off the rails. So that's one thing I like to do, and I'm pretty good at as well. And that works out, because if you have like a lousy chair, you're gonna have a lousy meeting, that's for sure.
Yeah, what do you think makes makes a person really great at running a meeting? Because I think the important thing is you want the meeting to last about as long as it needs to. You don't want it to go too long,
right?
But you don't want it to go too short,
Right. Well, I've seen a lot of meetings. I've been to so many LP conventions, Libertarian Party conventions over the years, both national and state, and they just drag and drag. And there's people that want to people are trying to make them last longer, and to like make a point or something, or they're just like totally obtuse and want to like have a 2-day-long credentials fight or something, instead of actually doing important business of what people want to get accomplished, like nominating candidates and writing the platform, writing the bylaws, or whatever. And so, I get frustrated when other people are chairing meetings sometimes. And so when I've chaired meetings, I've tried to move things along. Sometimes it doesn't work that well. There's going to be somebody trying to throw fly in the ointment or something. But I think I've kept meetings going. In fact, the early California convention I chaired in 1989, I was just chair for 1 year back then, and that didn't run for re-election. They had 1-year terms back then. I chaired that convention, and it was the first one that ever finished on time. And there people were just standing around looking at each other at the end. Usually they just ran it out, and there was a lot of business still to be attended, and everybody was shocked that everything got done. So you just have to be motivated to get things done. So just some advice to other chairs.
You are a great convention chair. Just you got done on time, and I think there are certain qualities. I think some of our people are better off, being officers, and some of our people are better off running for office. But you've done both,
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. But I did find that was the case. Interestingly, when I was recruiting candidates, and you ask somebody to run for office, which is a crazy thing. A lot of people are just, member's name on a list, and they never have been contacted by anyone. And then I would call them up and say, hey, would you like to run for Congress? And they're totally shocked, like they never even thought of the idea, because they wouldn't just on their own come up with that idea. And then some people do that, and they say, wow, this is great. I never would have thought to do this myself. Thanks for asking me to do it. I don't really want to be a party officer or go to meetings, but I love running for office and speaking out for liberty. So it's just a matter of people finding whatever's comfortable for them. But it's true. You're right, though. There's plenty of people who just like bureaucracy, and they want to like write the bylaws for the party and make sure it functions, behind the scenes properly. And we need people like that too, for that matter. So we need everybody, whatever your skill set is. We'll find a skill set. If there's anybody
Yeah.
out there that wants to, contact the party, either state or national, they're gonna, and they want to volunteer. They'll find something for them to do. Locally at our county party, it might be harder to find something to do. It's like a much smaller organization, trying to get if somebody was a real enthusiastic activist who wanted to join up here in Travis County, I'd want to maybe encourage them maybe to become the next chair to, if they have like a vision about how they want to build the party or something. But there's just such a small number of people. But again, if you're going to join the state or national party, they'll put you to work, I'm sure, right away.
How many national conventions have you been to?
Oh my gosh. Well, most of them since 1980, except for a few midterm ones.
That would have been 79 then.
79, right? That was the first one I went to. I wasn't a delegate there. I just moved to LA, and it was right there in the Bonaventure Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. And I was this young new member, and I went down there and just walked in, and Ed Clark was just talking to people in the lobby, and Nathaniel Brandon was giving a seminar, and it was just really heady to see all these great libertarians that you just walk up and say hi and talk to them. Unlike a young Republican that might have gone to their convention, and I don't think it might have been hard to get near Ronald Reagan to talk to him, But libertarians, very easy to do that, and if you're willing to work, they want to talk to you. If you want to work on the campaign, they're going to want you to, or they're going to want to talk to you. It was great. That was the biggest convention I've seen. There's been the one with Gary Johnson in 2016 was similar, like about 1,000 people, 1,000 delegates to the convention, really large group, very enthusiastic group. And I didn't see that again until 2016 in Orlando. That was really great, and we needed that all along. We had some small conventions like a lull in enthusiasm, a lull in activism, that sort of thing. But there's been that remnant of us that just sticks around forever and knows it's too important a cause to let go.
I do like to ask this question too. What was the reasoning behind changing the presidential nominating convention from it used to be fall the year before, and now it's done in the spring or summer of the election year?
Right.
For example, Maru got nominated in late 1991, but and he ran in 92. But of course, Harry Brown got nominated at the convention in the middle of 1996. What was the reasoning behind that?
Right, that was when they switched between the 92 and 96 campaigns. The theory was way back that about ballot access was part of it, because they keep changing the laws, but you had to have the presidential candidate's name to petition to put them on the ballot. And this is before we were on the ballot in a lot of these states, so we had to petition everywhere. And so, but starting with the Clark campaign, and then in each election, we just would maybe pick up, and also midterms where people were running for governor and places like that, we started picking up ballot access, and that became less and less necessary. And by 92, it was kind of like, why are we nominating the candidates so soon? We don't know who the other candidates are. We're pretty much on the ballot in a lot of states. We can start doing this in the, when the other parties do, or maybe slightly sooner. Some of them are pretty late, like in August or something of election year. But if we could do it we were doing it around 4th of July, and now we've moved it back to Memorial Day. But I think that's a good time to do it. I mean, the election year is when people are thinking about all these things. And that's pretty adequate for our petitioning now, because we start out with ballot access in 35 states or something. So there's not a whole lot of them that we have to do, just the tough ones that have to be done every time.
Who are some people over the years that you thought did really great work?
Oh my gosh. Well, again, Ed Clark, the late Ed Clark, was
either running as a candidate or running, or being a party official or whatever.
Well, he was, as a candidate, he brought so many people in, and a lot of them stayed in. He never ran for anything again, but he was always there as as a sage, and to influence people, and to be just like the adult in the room sometimes when that was needed. Of course, the party founder, David Nolan, a really great guy. he certainly was vital to the party getting started and continuing. He was active until he died, like I think around 2010, around there he died. So for
Yeah,
like 30 some years, he was a really top activist.
I went to Freedom Fest that year, and he died a few months later, and I was glad I got to meet David Nolan. So that was
Yeah, very
yeah
good guy. He lived in Southern California for a while, so we saw him all the time there for a few years. Otherwise, he lived in Arizona, Colorado and Arizona, I think.
some people
Otherwise,
I regret never getting to meet, but I was glad I got to, and that was a rather sudden death too. Yeah.
there was. He just was driving and had a heart attack when he was in his 60s. Yeah, it's really sad. So he was good. There's a lot of people just had like some niche issues, like Judge Jim Gray, for example, is a good activist in California on the drug war issue, and he's a rather distinguished fellow, having been a judge, a good guy. He ran for U.S. senator also. And there's just a lot of people I've met over the years from all over the country that just are really dedicated to promoting liberty, and there's still a whole bunch of people that are doing that, and hopefully that's never going to run out, because once it does, the country is doomed.
It most certainly is. You said you had about an hour. Do you have anything else before we go, Ted?
No, I just wanted to say that I hope people will support the campaign. Go to tedbrown.org for more information. The website's going to be updated, but the site's up there with a lot of information on the issues and for other shows I've been on. Quotes I like from historically that reflect liberty. And also to urge people to support other libertarians running for office very vitally. Here in Texas, Pat Dixon, who's a really distinguished libertarian in Texas, that everybody knows and respects, is running for governor of Texas, and I'm so glad that he's doing that. And I think we're going to have a good statewide ticket here this year. But what we really need, and we always need, is money, of course, to campaign, but also volunteers, people to just do the day-to-day work of the campaign, find out where the candidate can be sent to give a speech, or answer questionnaires from special interest groups, or it'd be great if we could talk to reporters. Hopefully some of them will call, but we have to be ready to do that. Don't have any newspaper articles say the Libertarian candidate Jim Smith was not available for comment or did not return our calls. I never want to see that.
That's never good. Yeah.
No,
always answer these questionnaires. Yeah,
exactly.
Some of these people do put them out there. I should ask too. Also, who is your favorite person in this world that also named Ted Brown?
Oh well,
your name is common as dirt. It's a lot more common than mine.
It would have been my dad, Ted Brown Sr., of course, and sadly he died 16 years ago. But that's the one.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ted. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Go buy my novel, Escape from the Village. Check out my Substack, and people are giving me money at buymeacoffee.com. Thank you, Ted Brown. We certainly look forward to the campaign.
Well, Chris, thanks for having me. It was fun.
We're about a year away from Election Day, and of course it is Veterans Day. So I'm Chris Baker. We're out. Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you.